Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we got another Andor video or episode discussion with you. I think it's episode 5. Yeah,
What about six?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's 5. Because we got 1 through 3, 4, and then 5. Yeah. So we're talking about episode 5 today. It's probably going to be kind of short, and you'll see why in a minute. But we're going to go ahead and talk about the episode first, like the spoilers and whatnot, and then give our opinions about it. And then it's up to you guys to decide whether or not it's for you, and drop your opinions in the comments. So I'm going to go over the episode really quick. There was 4 main things that were happening in this episode. One is the guy that was part of this, like this little new security group that got basically banished / shunned and then moved in with his mom. A good chunk of this episode, he's talking to his mom about, kind of where does he go next? What does he do? And he's eating this like space cereal that Sarah figured out was actually from Trix. Like if you picked out the little balls from some new Trix cereal, it's basically what made up his bowl of cereal. And his mom is basically telling him like, we can just talk to your uncle. He has this job and you can be a part of this, and blah, blah, blah. And I think really what's happening with his character is, obviously he wants to, make his family proud, but at the same time, he keeps looking at Andor's face with the, I don't know if he has a hollow puck or whatever it is, but he still has the hologram that basically shows Andor as a criminal. He keeps looking at that. So we know he wants to seek out revenge on Andor to some degree because of what he did, he lost his job and he was ruined. So he's kind of in this limbo state of what to do next. But I think in the episodes to come, we're really going to start to see where he's paving his path. So we had him going on in the episode. Second thing that we had going on was the Empire itself. It's still trying to clean up what happened, from the security group's lack of ability to handle Andor and a couple other people. And basically what we got from them is that they're cleaning up the city, and there's this one guy that is being asked to, if like this hotel building is good enough to be his headquarters while he's there. He says yes, but one of the interesting things about him is that he asked for this weird promotion. Like he says, I know there's like no pay raise or anything like that kind of a deal, but he still wants this slightly more prestigious title in the Empire. Because if you haven't picked up already, everybody in the Empire just wants to be one more up on another. So this kind of plays into that a little bit. Everybody wants to be goody-goody with the people at the top, being Vader. But that's about it as we get for the Empire, aside from what's happening with Andor. So we'll get back to that in a second. There's one other small thing that's happening in this episode, and that's we get to see a little bit more of what's going on with Mon Mothma. Now, she, in the previous episode, was worried about this dinner with a bunch of other politicians that she felt really didn't like her. And I believe this episode takes place after that dinner happened. And so the interesting dynamic that we get from her is that I believe it's her daughter. Her husband is very like laid back, kind of like a yes man to her, doesn't oppose what she has to say. But when her daughter comes into the scene and she sits down and she's talking to Mon Mothma and her husband, the daughter's dad, I should say, we kind of get this idea that Mon Mothma is actually like a very controlling type person. And because the daughter is like, you make my schedule this, and this way, and I have to follow this, and this. And basically she kind of erupts on Mon Mothma and tells her that she is super controlling and that she doesn't like get to live the life she wants to live because of all this stuff. And so we kind of get a bit of character development of Mon Mothma because In my opinion, we see the rebels and they are, this really, really good thing. But in a way, she's still being controlling herself. Like she has a little bit of power hungry, if you will. But those are like the very small things of this episode. The bigger things, which probably myself, Sarah, and all of you were waiting for, was this heist that was going to happen. Well, sorry to say, it didn't happen in this episode, unfortunately. I want to believe it's going to happen in the next episode, but based on the way this one went, I would not bet any money on what's happening in the next episode. But what happened in this one was that Andor goes and talks to one of the like side dudes. He's not in charge, and they're having a little bit of small talk. And Andor, we see, has a little bit of interest in the woman that's in charge, and I love the way that they said it. They said something along the lines of like she beds with someone else. Like it was a very weird way to say something, but like I totally got it. I thought that was kind of cool. But basically, she's with someone else, so don't even get your hopes up. And so Andor goes in, and he's again talking to her, and I think it's her comrade that's also in charge. But they're looking at the little models that they have of the Imperial base, and they're talking. And the main thing that comes out of this conversation is that they're trying to go in there to steal like a ship or some sort of vehicle, but it's latched to the ground. Like they don't know how to get those latches undone, but Andor does. And this was actually something in the episode I thought went on a little too long. But basically, they were like, we don't know how to do this. And Andor's like, you don't know how to do this? And they're like, no. And he's like, you don't know how to do this? And it's like, no, we don't. And he just keeps on asking them over and over if they know how to do getting rid of those things. So the point of bringing Andor in was because he knew how to take these things off so they can get away on the vehicle, without them having to waste time trying to destroy these like hooks. So we got that going on. But while he's in there, this other guy is cleaning Andor's weapons, all his stuff. And so when Andor comes out of that meeting, he notices that the guy's gone through all his stuff, and he's a little leery. And this guy shows Andor a couple of his tattoos that he has. So Andor is now on the same page of like, you've been in jail, I've been in jail. We're kind of the same person in a way. And so they have like a small understanding of each other. Let's pivot to the Empire for a minute here. So the Empire is noticing that something is going on, but they don't know what. And so they've been sending out like these little groups that are trying to figure out what's going on, and people aren't coming back. And so they're worried about what's wrong with these people. So the Empire is wondering what is going on with this group. Like, why aren't people returning? I think there was a little spot that was just outside their base that was like dirty, or they were playing games or something. And the officer's like, why are you guys doing this stuff? Get back to work, kind of a thing. So that's about all we get from the Empire, is that they feel like something is going on, but they don't know exactly what. And then to finish up, Andor and the group start making their way towards the base. They're trekking along, like, Lord of the Rings style for half the movie. And at one point, the guy that was cleaning Andor's weapons attacks Andor. He doesn't like physically hurt him, but he holds a knife to his neck and pulls the crystal from his necklace that, what was his name? Lethon, or?
I'm not sure.
Dang, I remember his name, but the older guy that gave him the crystal for compensation. That crystal is a kyber crystal, they said, and it's a big one. So, they know it's worth a lot of money. And so he's like, this isn't the guy that we thought he was. And, they're having, do you have the name?
Luthen.
Luthen, thank you. So they're having this bickering back and forth. And ultimately, the woman that's in charge is like, knock it off. I don't care what he's done in the past. What matters is that he's here to help us. Like, we all have the same thing we're trying to accomplish. So let's just do it. And so they simmer down a little bit, but there may be more conflict later on. But they eventually make it to the base. They're scouting it out. And what's kind of interesting is I believe the Imperials see them as well. So I don't know 100%, how this is going to play out in the next episode, but they're literally standing outside of the base at the end of this one. So we should be getting the heist in the next episode. So those are the 4 essential things that are happening in this episode.
One little thing to add. Sorry
Yep.
to interrupt. Andor does reveal that he's being paid because he basically says, I don't want to have to watch my back all the time to see if you're going to betray me. So I'm just telling you, this is why I'm here, is because I'm being paid. Which
Oh, yeah.
nobody else really is. They're all just there because they believe in the cause. So,
I thought the woman knew about it but not the other people.
right.
Because Luthen told her about him being like a hired gun mercenary type person.
Right.
But I would love to hear how you felt about this episode, Sarah.
I would love to tell you. No, I'm just kidding. I if I was not enthused before, I'm even less enthused now. It was just so slow. And I get having character development and stuff, but like so many different pieces were building up to things that led to nothing in this episode. We'll start with the guy eating his cereal while his mom lectures him about where he's going in life. Huh?
Nothing yet that we know about.
Not in this episode.
Right. I'm saying, like, we don't know if it's coming down the line, but in this episode, yes, nothing.
Plus, what I'm trying to say is there was things that were trying to develop in this episode that paid off to nothing in this episode, such as the guy eating his cereal while the mom lectures him about where he's going in life. They spent at least 2 or 3 separate scenes going back to them to talk about whatever they were talking about. It just seems very pointless in this episode. Then you've got the guy getting his headquarters. Okay, I guess that's like a substantial thing. He's got a base now at that hotel. That's something, I suppose. You've got the blonde Empire girl. She's got blonde hair. She's got her hair done up in a bun. She's the one who was fighting with somebody before about wanting to go through some files and whatnot. And she's kind of doing it behind people's backs to go through these files with somebody that she's with. And they basically both are saying that they're tired, but that they're wanting to go through more. So she like takes some caffeine pills or something so that they can each do 2 more files each. So they're essentially just taking an entire scene to talk about how they're going to go through some more files looking for something, some dirt on somebody. But they never get anywhere with that. That's all the further that goes. You've got the part with the group where, they're going through Andor's stuff. And I thought they were doing that while he was sleeping, going through his weapons. But you've got that scene and then the scene where they find that he's got the Kyber necklace. That's actually something. That was probably, those 2 scenes were probably the most exciting of the whole episode, if you ask me. Then you've got, what was the other, there was one other, the Mon Mothma scene. That also basically went nowhere. It was just her arguing with her daughter and then getting in the car where the husband didn't know the driver's name, but Mon Mothma did because it was a new driver or something. And so that was like a big deal of like, you don't even know the driver's name and whatever, a little back and forth between them. And that he asked him to take the highway. Like, what was the point of that scene? Just so we could see that the guy didn't know the driver's name and ask him to take him on the highway? Like, what was the point? There's too many separate sessions where I think to myself, what was the point of that in this episode? What did that add to this episode? How did that further the story? And none of them really feel like they're furthering the story except for what happened to Andor, which I guess makes sense because that's, the name of the show. But my hope for this show is going further and further down. I'm losing so much interest just trying to wait for something to happen. What do you think?
I do want to talk a little bit to some of the things that you brought up. One of them in particular, if I were to pick one of the small things that seemed like they were nothing, but I think that they actually were a little bit more of something, was the Mon Mothma stuff. Because what it conveyed to me is, the rebellion is upset like with this empire and the emperor himself, being controlling and stuff. And to me, this was painting her a little bit more of like, you're not so different than him in a way. Like she's not going out there and like murdering people and being this all powerful force in the galaxy and controlling, but there is a side to her that, in my opinion, is kind of almost reflective of what she's trying to defeat. So I kind of thought that was interesting. Like, I don't think they would put that in the episode if it hadn't meant something. And also the driver thing, I think that's partially her just being sneaky. Like, I think there's something that she's doing that he's not even aware of. Like, maybe he doesn't even know about the rebellion. I don't know.
Wouldn't
But
be surprised.
the fact that it's somebody new as a driver, that strikes me as she's trying to be shisty about something. Like that they're all having to work in the shadows essentially, with the rebellion. But
Well, the new driver was a big deal in the last episode when she was talking to Luthen at the antique shop because they were talking about it being a new driver.
and they were, having him or her, I don't remember, like distracted off to the side.
Right.
Um, but I thought
If
that was important.
if I were to pick one of those small side scenes, like not an Andor scene that I thought would be important, I almost want to say it's going to be the guy eating his cereal because they're making such an effort to show how nagging his mom is and how disappointed she is. I'm just waiting for him to snap. Like, if we don't see this guy just freaking lose his mind, that is a missed opportunity.
I think he will definitely have something playing down the road. I think there's supposed to be 12 episodes for season one, so I think we got about 7 more to go. He's gonna do something. He's not gonna just go work with his uncle and be a goody goody the rest of his life. He's definitely gonna try to do something, I bet, to take care of Andor and look good in the eyes of the Empire. That's my guess. But as far as my thoughts on the episode, I will tell you guys exactly what happened. The episode ended, and I gave Sarah the remote, and I said, I feel like I'm done with this show. Just because it hasn't, like, I feel like enough is enough with the building. I feel like we really needed the heist in this episode. Um, what this episode added, I think, to Andor's story was nothing that we needed that we already had, if that makes sense. Like I feel like the heist should have come from last week's episode going into this episode and not basically having last week's episode being almost the same as this week's episode because we basically got the same stuff for Andor. The reason why I mentioned Lord of the Rings and trekking through whatnot, they were on a mountain, and just in the first Lord of the Rings movie, there was a part where they were on the mountain and they were having a little scuffle about the ring, and here we have a little scuffle about the crystal, so it kind of mirrored it for myself. But I am not feeling it right now for the Andor show. It's disappointing to me to say that. I'm gonna watch the rest of it. Anything that comes out Star Wars, I'm gonna watch. But I will say this is one of the first shows in a while that's made me kind of a non-believer. I don't I know where Andor is heading. So although this show is called Andor, part of me doesn't even care about what Andor is doing. What I care about is what is happening with the building of the rebellion and what is happening with the empire. How is the empire, growing in this time frame? At this point, because we know where Andor is heading and we know how he's gonna end up, with Rogue One, I feel like I don't need his story. And that sucks to say because that's what this is supposed to be. You're supposed to be following this guy going through what is happening with the rebellion, what's happening with the empire, and really none of it is meshing. Like none of this is coming together. So it bothers me that I'm not seeing more of that. I feel like we are seeing, the guy that created Andor's character, which is awesome that he is a part of writing this, but all the cylinders are not firing for me. There's some misfires going on here. So I'm optimistic that the rest of the way might have something for us. But I don't know if I'm going to be, excited at the end of this show. I know we said so much stuff about Kenobi, watching it week to week. But I gotta be for real, you guys. I think I'd rather watch that show right now. And that kind of gives you the dynamic. This show isn't bad, but it feels like it's going nowhere. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I'm sure there's tons of people out there that would disagree. I really wanted Tony's opinion on this episode, but maybe we'll get to see him next week and get to hear a little snippet of what he thought of this next week. But otherwise, is there anything that you want to say, Sarah?
No, it seems like we're taking so long to get somewhere and we're not even halfway through the season. Like there's still so much longer that this has to go.
I think this next episode is the halfway point, so something's got to get going.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So if you have not already and you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel, drop a like if you liked it, and drop a comment letting us know if you agree with us or how wrong we are with this show so far. We've talked about that this show is a very, very different taste for Star Wars. And so I think it's taking some time to get used to. But we'll see. And then as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.